Hey, this is Jon in Romskip. Back in the 80s, I really wanted more women in my toy lines. I wanted more female action figures. I just couldn't understand why I never had a chance to buy a Scarlet to match my Snake Eyes version 2 or 3. Or why it seems that April is the only woman in the Turtles universe. Transformers the movie gave us so many weird robots, but they still failed to give us one of the main characters in RC. So I guess there was some idea that in the toy lines mainly made for boys, a female figure wouldn't sell as good. Probably true somewhere, but that wasn't true for me. I wanted more female action figures in my toy lines. So the few we got are greatly appreciated by me, by pretty much all the collectors. It's to the point where you feel like a collection is somewhat incomplete without the sole female action figure. And I'm actively trying to collect the female action figures in a toy line. In fact, a few toy lines I've gone solely for the woman in the toy line because it's usually the standout figure. Let me show you here. And this blue lady here is Solitaire from Rock Lords, and she is by far the best action figure in that toy line. Look how you can see her joints through the plastic, and look at that blue color. It's it's even better in real life because that blue color doesn't quite translate into the camera. Just take my word for it. Madame O here from Bionic 6 is also one of my favorite action figures. Bionic 6 is an interesting toy line because it has the best male to female ratio of the toy lines mainly made for boys. You see here, out of 13 characters, you have 3 women, Helen, Meg, and Madame O. If I ever made a list out of the top 10 female action figures, period, all these 4 would make it to the list. But this list is about what I have in my shelves right now, and to be honest, it's a bit difficult to have some of these in the shop because they sell out quickly. Pymira here is a great example of that. Whenever I get in a Pymira, she sells out like within a day. Same goes, for instance, with a Mask Stiletto. Also a very popular thing, not just because it's a woman in a toy line with way too few women, but because it's a white Lamborghini. And if I ever got in a Serena from Dino Riders with her Dino Buddy, I would probably keep it for myself. So yeah, this list is about the top 10 female action figures in my shop right now, and I think it turned out to be a pretty good list. How would your list of the top 10 female action figures look like? Let me know in the comments. Yeah, the first one here is Dr. Blight from Captain Planet. A toy line just filled with colorful characters, and I like Dr. Blight here for her, you know, she's evil, but she still dresses in pink, and she has those armbands. These figures aren't highly detailed and doesn't come with many points of articulation, but they have some neat play features, some of them, and Dr. Blight here is no exception. Just pull back her hair and she reveals a badly acid burned face. to scare off the kids who try to help and summon Captain Planet. Really nice figure, and that's why she's number 10 on the list. A Jinx here is from G.I. Joe. The year is 1987, and Jinx is one of the many ninjas we would end up seeing in the toy line. I always liked Jinx. She's somewhat delicate in that she has a tiny waist compared to the male characters, and she has painted fingernails and tiny slippers, but she's still deadly with her two swords. Jinx is one of many great female characters in the G.I. Joe toy line, but I know, compared to the male characters, they're outnumbered by quite a bit. Notice the dragon symbol on her chest. So even though she's kind of all red, she has some nice details as well. Number 8 on the list is Ellie from Jurassic Park, made by Kenner in the early 90s, mid 90s, 90, 93, 94. I really like this figure, and I like the character a lot. She's highly competent, and you know, she's not afraid to say, this is what I'm good at and I'm gonna do it. I think they made a great action figure out of this character. She doesn't quite look like the actress, but you know, they managed to include that tied up shirt she has in the movies. And she comes with a tiny and cute dinosaur companion. Jurassic Park is such a great movie franchise. I find almost all of them really entertaining, and I think Kenner did a great job with the toys as well. Chitara here is from Thundercats, LJN, mid-80s. And for many, I would think Chitara is the first action figure they think of when we're talking about female action figures. She's very popular, and rightfully so. It's a great action figure, and although the play feature isn't all that impressive, her appearance definitely is. I would probably also include Pamira from Thundercats on this list if I had her in the shop right now. But Pamira, and I guess it could be said about complete Chitaras as well, extremely popular products here in Romskip. So although Evelyn is more or less a repaint of Tila, at least the body, I think they did something smart in just doing her in crazy colors, so she really stands out compared to Tila. And of course in the cartoon and in almost all of the Incarnations movies, various shows, Evelyn has always been the voice of reason to counter Skeletor's ambitious stupidity. That's Evelyn, she's number 6. So this here is Rogue from the X-Men. I started reading comics almost immediately. I could read by myself, got into the superheroes, and the X-Men was a big part of that early memory of reading by myself. And although this costume of for Rogue came a bit later, it's probably one of the favorite superhero costumes I know of, with that the 90s Rogue with her leather jacket. Of course, this wasn't the Rogue I started reading about, but it's the one that, at least for me, has had the biggest impact. And while they have made better versions of Rogue in the more recent years, I still really like this 90s era specific style Toy Biz action figures. The smaller one is probably the first one from 94, and the large one is from 96. Vultura here is from Golden Girl by Galoob. It's somewhat contemporary to She-Ra, often seen as off-brand She-Ra figures, but I think they're infinitely better. And in fact, Golden Girl is one of my favorite toy lines if I were to list them all. So they came with these metal shields with the diamonds and jewel stones and such, and they have like really detailed weapons. sharp swords and spears and such, and their facial expressions look like they're, you know, ready for war. So really great figures, and Vultura here is probably my favorite of the bunch. I think Golden Girl, more than many other toy lines intended for girls, this one struck a nerve with the boys as well. And I know many from of my age had Ogra here in their collection and probably wanted the other girls as well. I've talked about Mondo's Motu line previously in other videos, and I think they're spectacular. They're like statues with articulation, and I like the style they've gone for with that semi-cartoonish look, both in face and face applications, and in details and accessories. So they're somewhat not realistic, but a bit more lifelike than the vintage toys. So they are something entirely new, and I really like that. I think they did everything right with the She-Ra here, and it's just a gorgeous looking action figure with several ways of displaying her. Included 2 different swords, a companion, different heads, different face masks. Just a fantastic figure, and that's why she's number 3 on this list. Yeah, so this is Lady J, 1985. G.I. Joe is the toy line, made by Hasbro. So there's just nothing wrong with Lady J here, it's just a great action figure. I would probably like her to have a weapon instead of a launching spear gun, but still, it's a fantastic toy. Lady J has all the strengths that the other G.I. Joes from this time period has, like extreme details down to the buttons on her jacket and the emblem on her upper arm there. And she also has this rubbery material on her hair instead of a fully sculpted head. I know I like that as a change from the other figures when I was a kid. Lady J is rightfully number 2 on this list because it's just a great army action figure that just happens to be a woman. I don't mind vintage Teela at all, but Masters of the Universe Classics Teela is just one of the greatest action figures of all time. I think they finally did Teela right, and by that I mean how she seems capable and like a warrior in the comics and the cartoons and in our imagination, while the vintage toy from the early 80s, let's be honest, she looks like a child. And the classics version came with just an impressive amount of accessories. Several weapons, different heads. You know, you can really pose her in many different ways, and when you combine this with the added articulation, for instance, she can hold her sword with both hands, makes for just an impressive action figure. So that's Masters of the Universe Classics Teela, taking the first spot on this list, and I'll be honest, this is one of my favorite action figures of all time. And now I'm curious to hear, how would your list look like? Do you have any favorites among the ones I've shown you? Do you have any other suggestions of all-time favorite women action figures? Let me hear down below. This has been Jon from Romskip, and I'll see you around.